Now, for the interesting game. Let's go to this game. We're gonna move this up to ×3 as soon as the replay starts, because we know what's going to happen. It's going to be 2 barracks against 2 barracks. And as I said, if you haven't experienced the build order before, if you're familiar with other RTS games, it would be a build order, the order of which you build things optimally. You can start 2 workers, and then around 25 seconds, you can pull a worker to start your house. Here we're going to go ahead and pay attention to my side of things so that I can show you this. And just look, you put out 1 more worker after the house has been started, and the house will finish around 102, and you will be able, at around 104, 105, to make your barracks. Oh, look, 105 barracks, bam. The advantage of this is that it's about 10 to 15 seconds faster than waiting until 40 seconds, as Zhao and some other people do. And if you look at the mined gold, you actually get a minor increase compared to another player's going 2 barracks. Now, notice this right here for Zhao. Keep in mind, this is game 1. We saw game 3, but this is game 1. Game 1 hasn't happened. Game 3 hasn't happened yet. Zhao sent out a worker to determine what his opponent was doing, which perfectly allows him to suit what he's doing in response. Now look at this. If we look at R, the second barracks for Zhao is delayed compared to the first barracks. But notice something important. This player, me, this 2 barracks, is completely blind. Due to how this second barracks was started as quickly as possible after the first barracks, it finishes around, you can have about 200 gold to make the second barracks, almost at the same time the first barracks is done, maybe even a little earlier. But notice that Zhao only had 1 barracks down at this point. He then sent out a scout and determined that there were 2 barracks up, so he built a reactionary second barracks. Now look at the intelligent decision making behind this. First off, look at the placement right here between the house and the barracks. There's only enough room. Oh, there he goes. Oh, get it. This soldier is blocking the path entering. So if you are using the Zhao style of this 2 barracks, where you get your second one a little later, perhaps even reactively, if your first unit is a soldier in this wall, then the player that went 2 barracks first, such as myself in this case, look, there's 3 soldiers versus 2 soldiers and a rifleman. You're not going to win that fight on open ground, but putting this soldier right here means that it can only attack and only be attacked by 1 soldier at a time. All the time that soldier is attacking one-on-one against its opponent, this rifleman is doing free damage. Now, here's something else that's important to notice. Look at, I wish I could even slow it down further, but look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 soldiers are coming out. 5 soldiers versus about to be 4 soldiers and a rifleman. If those numbers were all compacted together right now, there's a chance, see, this looks bad. 6 soldiers versus 3, and yeah, he has 1 rifleman, but 1 rifleman loses to 1 soldier. That's all bad. And oh, look, the units are getting split up. It looks bad. But notice the ingenuity of this. Look how 2 soldiers come out now to give the total forces at 5 soldiers. Right here we have 5 soldiers and this rifleman. Look at this. You see the micro? You see how Zhao is able to pull away his individual units so that they didn't take damage? But look at what advantage Zhao has that I do not have. In addition to the DPS of this rifleman, he is able to do damage, look at that, to retreating or fleeing soldiers for free, which leaves him with good micro. He's at about even soldiers, but the heavy advantage to him is this rifleman, because when you're rifling, microing and rifling are apparently the same thing when I'm confused for words. When you're microing only soldier against only soldier, then how effective your fight is determined by how effective you were in microing those soldiers. But if you have even, look at this, you'll see this throughout the game. Zhao will keep this one rifleman per about every 4 or 5 soldiers and add another one for every 4 or 5 thereafter. Now what this means is that when there's micro going on and the opposing player is trying to pull away with his soldiers so he can heal them or get them into a better position for another fight, etc., this rifleman is actually the determining factor that's capable of doing damage. Now look at this. When Zhao has these 5 soldiers and this one rifleman compared to 3 soldiers and 3 riflemen, even if all units were at full health, that's an even fight at best for the rifling player. But in 2 barracks versus 2 barracks, notice, we'll go to R for production. There's a mage's tower being built behind this, but not very much economy. Look, no base for either player. So riflemen can't really be produced, one, in the numbers needed to make them effective against soldiers, because you either need more riflemen or you need better upgraded riflemen. But there's not enough infrastructure. Like, look at the total mind. There's less than 200 difference, 250 difference for total mind. Now look at this. See how we talked about before? Zhao getting 1 rifleman for every 4 or 5 soldiers. Oh, look at that beautiful split. Now, rifleman is not a bad choice for 1 racks expand, or for even 2 barracks, if you go nothing but that at the front. But in a 2 barracks versus 2 barracks scenario, how efficient your riflemen are depends on whether they're better upgraded or if you have more money so you can produce more of them. Now, the riflemen are being produced, but look, there's no expansion being grabbed behind this. Now, something I didn't even show before, but we're about to see how important this is. Whereas I went for mages, which are primarily a defensive or containing tool, Zhao went for +1 weapons. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot now. It doesn't seem like a lot now, but compare something. Look how this Zhao soldier is able to perfectly identify everything that his opponent has. Look how even as he has fewer units. Look, he has 2 more soldiers, yeah, but 3 fewer riflemen and no mages. He has fewer units, but because his +1 is now finished, he has this concave. Look, he can see everything that's going on whenever the opposing player decides to move out. If the opposing player tries to move out on this side, they get caught. If they try and move out in towards the center, they walk into the concave. Now look how these fireballs, which were supposed to be used for containment, have to be used to actually level the battle, because although he doesn't have more units, Zhao has better upgraded units, and he had better positioned units. Oh man, it's just so crazy. Meanwhile, in the background for both players, an expansion going down. Now, look at this. It seems about even, right? 6 soldiers and 3 riflemen for Zhao. Good ratio to remember. You know, just good. It's just solid. 2 soldiers, 5 riflemen, and 2 mages for myself. Which means my army is going to be focused mostly on micro, mostly on kiting. It's going to be very APM intensive. I have to babysit a lot of units. This would be good, also, a composition. A few soldiers, but a lot of DPS, if the map were tight. If it had a lot of choke points. Enough soldiers to tank while the DPS does its damage. But look at the titular bridge of Lava Bridge. Look how wide that is. Look how wide the areas coming out of both sides of the bridge are. In this situation, more microing goodness going on. In this situation, Zhao doesn't have to micro for his units to still be efficient. Riflemen have to micro to be efficient in an open area, but Zhao does not have to do that. Now look, here's something I want you to notice. This fight, when did Zhao leave this engagement that we were watching? a lot of things happen. You might say it's because the mages dropped down some attacks, some flame strikes. You might say it's because his soldiers ran out. But the important thing to note, to me, is that Zhao is able to retreat from that attack without taking huge damage from the attack because he kept his riflemen alive. In Zhao's scenario, where he has about a rifleman to every 3 or 4 soldiers, oh look, he even threw up, +2 is about to start, he threw up another barracks. In this situation, it's because his decision makers, his riflemen, were in danger. Pure soldier, even on Lava Bridge, doesn't have a whole lot of area to move around. Now Zhao is sitting back while he waits for +2, so he can have a timing. Now here's why you would do this. Just think if you're in Zhao's shoes. You have +1 and a roughly equal army to your opponent. Your reinforcements will come faster for you than your opponent due to the defender's advantage. Defender's advantage is the idea that in a game like this, where units can't instantly teleport from one side to the other, your units will reinforce to your reinforcement point faster than your opponent's units will. Now look at this. Why would Zhao, at his own reinforcement line, oh, these mages are just going to get it. It's so sad. Flame strike, kill the guy that's weak. Oh, okay, I guess not. Oh, well. He's at his own reinforcement point, so it's very hard for this army to attack into it, especially considering how much smaller that it is. Another thing to consider is that Zhao had +2 coming online. Why would he take an engagement that he's slightly favored for positioning and reinforcements at +1, when he can wait a round or two and get to +2 attack? Notice this golden ratio again that Zhao has. He has, if we could pause, I'd show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 soldiers and 2 riflemen, and the riflemen will be able to make deciding attacks for him. Behind his +2 attack, he's getting not only +3 and rallying out more units, but he's getting his own castle. And he's poking around now to make sure that his opponent doesn't have a castle of their own. On a map like this, where it's so wide, because he has a soldier-intensive army, Zhao is able to go to a castle that has 1 tower defending it and easily knock it down, not only because he has soldiers, but because of the importance of his upgrades.